What is your you have become the very thing you swore to destroy moment? Not destroy, but became the thing I thought I would never be. I grew up with the mentality that if I work my ass off I will get ahead. Was taught that government workers are lazy and that I shouldn't go down that road. I worked in a corporate environment for 10 years and worked my way up the corporate ladder to a senior management position. I became burnt out and depressed from working what felt like 24/7. Was treated like a robot and couldn't turn my brain off work. I would go to bed and wake up reading and writing emails. On the phone to and from work. I quit that job and got a management position in government. Work-life balance is amazing. I still work hard but only during work hours now, haha. I feel like a person again. Edit. Loving all the responses to this. I am reading everything. Thank you for the encouraging words. I was not expecting this today. Also, thank you very much for the awards. No, we're not going to McDonald's. We have food at home. Double quote. I don't have kids but doing this to myself was the moment I realized I had become a boring adult. That and when someone at work asked me what I did that weekend and I, completely thrilled, replied something like, I finally deep cleaned my place and my car. And made some amazing chicken parmesan for dinner. After which I immediately thought, oh god, what has happened to me? I work in retail. Once I had to ask to see the manager because a worker was refusing a refund even though I had my receipt. The item was in perfect condition and it was within the warranty. I was at a different store so no one knew I was an actual employee for the company, and the manager realized the worker legit just never got taught how to do a return and was just refusing any returns because he didn't want to ask a manager. So technically I helped the guy but hurt my soul to get someone to call the manager over for me. See? The reason I don't mind asking to see the manager is because having worked retail, I understand that there is a limit to the power that the employee has. But I understand that a manager often can make what I want happen. My nephew begged me to play Fortnite with him for a week straight. My sister was on vacation and I let him use my Xbox as much as he wanted to. I absolutely hate this game. But it made him happy and I really didn't mind watching him play. After watching him play several matches I understood the building mechanics a little better. So I looked up the controls. His eyes lit up when I finally went to him and said, okay, let's give Fortnite a shot. We loaded in, grabbed some weapons, and hugged the wall of the storm. His go-to strategy. I wasn't going to argue with a 7-year-old. Made it into the remaining 8 players. Finally got some contact. And I scored my first kill. Before I knew it there was Justice and one other player. He was clearly skilled. He took me down to the ground. As I'm bleeding out near death. My nephew blasts this guy with an RPG. Leave my uncle alone. Boom. Victory. In my very first match, I looked over at my nephew and he was just crying his eyes out. He had never won a match before. Ever. Playing 2 years and never won a game. I thought he was upset but it was this just sheer happiness I've never seen in him before. I still really don't care for the game that much. But we made a great team and now we have something to bond over together. As a long-term server bartender manager I hate having to send my food back. It has to be like totally FK'd up. I like my steak rare. But if it's overcooked up to like mid, well I can still enjoy it. Might need some kind of sauce if it's MW. But I was at a high-end restaurant and my rare steak that cost like $50 was burned to shit. I had to speak up. I was as nice as I possibly could be but still felt like a monster. I'm partial to rare steak as well. And I was a server for years. So I totally understand where you're coming from. I feel if you have to send food back, the nicer the place, the less you have to feel bad about it. They want you to have an enjoyable experience. So you'll come back. And so you'll speak well of them to your friends. They'd much rather read your meal than have you leaving unhappy with your food. I had this at my last job, military. I spent most of my time at the job hating the ease with which people in authority could FCK up the lives and careers of their subordinates. I felt that a lot of leaders quickly lost empathy once they gained power. all of which came flooding back to me my last year once I was in a position of authority and was writing up the paperwork to have my new soldier punished. For me, I started out trying to be a better manager taking care of people. But it just led to staff having less respect for my authority and due to a friendly vibe more comfortable to not finish work on time and then explain. Or in some cases actively screw me for God knows what reason. After I'd spent a year kindly training them how to do the job they were supposed to be already qualified for. I still try to be fair. But I learned a lot of lessons. As a teenager I was a pop punk. Hated the government. Loved anarchy. Did tons of drugs. Swore I'd never be one of those mainstream sheep. Now I work in an office. For the government. I don't do drugs. I own a house. Own stocks. Think about my retirement portfolio. Yeah. I sold out. But of my friends who never did, 2 died of ODs and 1 is 40 years old working the night shift in a gas station for minimum wage. If that's what I had to look forward to, I'm okay with being a sellout. I've always been about the punk life and espousing anti-corporate ideologies. A few years out of college I was working as a job coach for teenagers with disabilities. So I would dress in business casual to model appropriate work attire. My car that was over a decade old driven hard was about to die. So I traded it in. I wanted something with 4-wheel drive and good storage capacity, as I did a lot of camping during the summer. So I bought a used RAV4. My girlfriend at the time was working at a canteen in a VA hospital that sold Starbucks coffee. And she'd bring some packages of grounds home if it was old. Anyways, this all converged one day as I'm listening anti-flag and realize I'm in khakis and a button-up shirt, drinking Starbucks while driving my SUV to work. I've become the old man who wants peace and quiet in his home. Also, parking in my driveway when you're not coming to see me is the best way to start a problem with me. I'm 20 and feel the same about the driveway thing tbh. I live out in the country next to a corn bean field and the farmers seem to think it's okay to park in our driveway, preventing us from getting down it. We also get a lot of people stopping on your driveway to use their phone for one last time before losing cell service for a few miles, and we're okay with that until they're blocking us from getting in or out. My dad was a huge Neil Young fan. He would always blast his Neil Young tapes and CDs when we were cleaning the house. I despised it. I hated his voice so much. I hated everything about that music. Except now I love it. Billy Joel and ABBA were like that for me. Every time my mom popped in the Billy Joel Greatest Hits cassette I knew it was cleaning time. Now I love singing along to Uptown Girl while I scrub the toilet. When I promised myself I wouldn't end up like those lazy good-for-nothing kids that don't have a job, still live in their parents' house and do nothing but sit around all day. Guess who does all that? Me. Same. To be fair, I graduated college right before COVID hit. And that put a dent on my plans to move out somewhere where the lockdown is more serious. I work part-time and want to move out so badly. But I'm just waiting for the right time. Reddit. Look at these Facebook pages stealing videos off of creators. Anyway, here's a YouTube video that I'm hosting on Reddit. The hypocrisy of it all. People on Reddit get upset when someone takes something from Reddit and posts it on YouTube or Instagram. The thing is, Reddit takes a lot from other websites, especially from 4chan and news sites. When I was a kid, I railed against smoking weed. I would tell people about how it makes people unfocused, unmotivated, and lazy. I even participated in school projects where we made videos about how bad marijuana is. Now, I smoke pretty much every day. Many of my friends tried weed for the first time because of me. And I've become very unfocused, unproductive, and lazy. I even participated in school projects where we made videos about how bad marijuana is. Now, I smoke pretty much every day. Many of my friends tried weed for the first time because of me. And I've become very unfocused, unproductive. When I started liking mustard on things, that was me with ketchup. Hated that stuff with a passion in spite of my love for tomatoes. Then I got pregnant. Whilst pregnant, I walked into a Wendy's and the smell of ketchup hit me full force. I suddenly had a craving and wanted to siphon the ketchup out of the pump with my mouth. Instead I acted rationally and bought a large fry and gleefully enjoyed them with my newfound desire for ketchup. At 15 I was a devout Christian. I even went to camps and won theology competitions. If you showed me a picture of a naked lady, I'd cover my eyes and feel extra sinful that day. Now I'm agnostic and I haven't been inside a church for years. I'm thinking about starting my tattoo sleeves soon and I fap regularly. Total 180. Told my parents all the time that their bloodline ends with me. They'd better hope my brother has all the grandkids. Because I won't. I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son. I sure showed them. It took years before I was finally able to build up my confidence after being bullied in high school. After a couple of years working, however, I realized I'd been picking on people at work just for the fun of it. I had always dreamt of rubbing my bullies' faces with my success, but I subconsciously turned into a bully while chasing that imagined success. Went to grad school for geophysics and my thesis was geothermal energy resource scouting. Immediately was offered a very high paying job for the oil and gas industry. I ended up turning it down to stay green. But oh man, that was a tough decision. When I realized I'm the boss now. I don't really have a boss. It's weird. The owner is ostensibly my boss. But he won't manage the company. Therefore each area manager is the boss. I'm way too immature for this. Heck, more or less where I'm at. I basically just have to ask my boss if something I want to do is illegal. If not, then develop the idea further. And once I'm ready to implement, I go ask if any changes made are illegal. Just has the benefit of experience. Growing up my family didn't have the money for luxuries. And my perspective was formed by that experience. I used to scoff at expense and excess as a pointless waste. But having nice things is pretty sweet. NGL. Wouldn't go back. Buying some expensive items that are more durable is cost saving if you have the ability to buy them. Egg leather boots can last a long time but are expensive. Cheaper material boots are affordable but wear out and need to be replaced 2-4 times sooner. My parents always bought cheap shit and always ended up paying more. A perfect example is cars. They never could afford a new car with a factory warranty but instead bought used cars that turned out to be lemons. You can never be 100% sure how the prior owner drove it and how well it was maintained. Are you asking if I'm a corporate shill? Because yes I am. Ever get a letter from a corporation politely telling you to FCK off? I write those. I used to be absolutely against swearing and now I can't go 2 sentences without saying a curse. Growing up, all 5 members of my family besides me smoked cigarettes and my older siblings smoked weed. I decided to never smoke anything in my life. I've been smoking weed for about 3 years now. I have an alcoholic dad who ruined his life repeatedly. Swore I'd never drink. I drink now but make sure to keep it under control. Working in Big Pharma. I never wanted to work for a company who make money from the less fortunate. 16-year-old me would detest me. But I was out of a job for 2 years and needed money to support myself. I'm trying to get out of that company now. Unless you absolutely detest the field. Don't be too hard on it. Yes, the leadership of these companies is focused on the money. But without them a lot of majorly needed medications wouldn't even exist. Their greed funds the research needed to help people. Mine's kind of backwards from the typical. But I used to rail against Rhinos. Thought systemic racism was a faux concept. Was opposed to gay marriage. Hated Democrats. Now I'm a centrist-leaning conservative planning to vote for a centrist Democrat to save us from the people I used to be. The same happened to me with feminism. I used to be a not all men kind of girl. Saying things like she's slutty and no one can respect her or feminists hate men and serve their own cause and such. Now fighting everyone who says any of those things. I'm my AP US history class. I had to debate about whether or not Jackson should be taken off the $20 bill, and my teacher assigned me against taking him off, so I had to defend Andrew Jackson. And as I was debating, I was realizing that all of my arguments were basically the arguments that Trump supporters have about Trump. I hated myself for a long time after that. It was when I had earned degrees in a useful field. Took a job working first shift Monday through Friday starting at 7:30 am. And bought a house in the suburbs. 20-year-old me would be spinning in his grave. I used to always think city life would be for me. Why would I want to live in the boring old suburbs? Now that I'm getting older, almost 28, and looking to get a house, being in a quiet suburban neighborhood where my future kids can play outside sounds much better than a place in the city that shares walls with neighbors on both sides, fighting for parking spots, and paying much more for less square ft. I ate an entire box of double stuffed Oreos in one sitting while playing some games. I like to think of myself as a generally healthy person. I exercise and have been trying to reduce my meat consumption to have more balanced meals. But man, when I could feel the crumbs of those black Oreo cookies and see their smudges was a time when I thought to myself, I have become a monument to all my greed. So I play Overwatch and I main Mercy. I used to say things like I hate those Mercies who pocket Genghis and show off their legendary skins. They're annoying. Cut to me 3 years later with a Mercy golden gun, pocketing my Genji friend to help him level up. Double quote. This year, the school bus drop-off is right in front of my house. The other day some kids got off the bus and cut across my lawn. I got irrationally upset. Then I realized I have turned into my father. High school kids beat down the fence connecting my yard to the baseball field so they could climb it easier. High school said they were sorry, paid to replace the fence with a much higher and nicer one, and installed a gate on their side of the adjacent wall. For your information, I attended that high school and like, come on guys. Hop it, I don't care. But don't destroy a fellow classmate's property. In 9th grade, I got bullied a lot because everyone thought I was a dangerous kid or something. Someone told me the year after that they thought that because I'm a metalhead meant that I would do some bad stuff. I never hurt anyone, but I didn't help my case and eventually got the police's attention for all the wrong reasons. Thankfully never went back there. Not like I had much of a choice in the matter anyway. I once sent hentai to my friend because she kept sending hentai to me and she was unable to reply because she never thought her innocent Catholic friend would send her something like that. Anyways, have both booked our places in hell. I really hated people who are anti-mask, but now that they added face shields I f***ing hate that thing because I can't see clearly and it irritates my nose. I've became anti-face shield. Well, those are only effective if you wear a mask too. So unless your job is forcing you to wear one, it should be pretty much optional. Mine is music related. I used to mock many different kinds of music for being what I deemed lesser forms of music. Mainly because I play many instruments and am partial to music made solely with instruments. I have always enjoyed other forms of music, but I never would advocate for it, or admit that I liked it, simply because I didn't want to be associated with the world surrounding them, the fans and so on. Now I make and actively participate in nearly all the kinds of music I mocked before. Funny enough, it was the Lego movie that helped me see the different side of things with my ignorant perspective. As they describe a scene in the movie where the child is explaining why the creativity that looks chaotic is not necessarily bad. It hit me hard. Because much like the Overlord, Will Ferrell, I too sought order and structure amidst what I deemed was musical chaos. Now, I see the joy of inspiration that one form of music can leave on others, as well as how many different influences a musician can have. That is my little story. I'm cool with it now. But had I met my 18-year-old self, I would have probably called me a sellout. I have become that which I sought to destroy. When I remonstrated with someone for writing code that was completely out of agreed specification, when I was in college, I resented conventions. And as a junior coder I always tried to express myself. I always told myself I would be more tolerant when I had more experience. I was engaging in code review and carefully explaining why it made sense to follow the specification, including published coding conventions. And when I heard their tone of resigned irritation, I realized I have become an experienced coder that is a stickler for coding conventions.